Hey everybody, welcome back to On Air Chatter. This is episode 14. Our special guest is Harry with Conspiracy Games. Uh, we're going to kind of talk about his game and what everything's going on over there, which is Blossom and Decay, which I guess is a MMARPG. I guess A is just for action or adventure. What is the game about, or the premise, or
So the basic idea is, as you said, massive multiplayer game. The A stands for action, so we don't have like tap targeting or stuff like that, but more like an old school 2D Zelda combat system where like the location you strike and the direction determines if you hit, and it's a bit more casual and it's a bit less having a big bar of actions with cooldowns on the bottom of your screen, and more of reaction. And the basic idea is, or where it differentiates from many other MMORPGs, is that we combine active play, where you go online, control your character, with a crafting or asynchronous layer, where you go offline and you put up a task list and tell your character to like guard the house, or produce a sword, or whatever, maintain a shop and sell items while you're offline, all that. So basically the idea is to have a world filled with player built stuff and player maintained systems, instead of having like vendor NPCs and all that stuff. So a little bit sandbox MMO on the bottom, and then hopefully enabling having a very open world, not having a theme park-ish fixed structure of the world, hopefully with enough players developing dynamics like you can see in EVE Online or in these kinds of games, where you have player factions building up cities, starting conflict against each other.
awesome.
Yeah, that's
and
more or
that's and
less.
that's one of those, like you were talking about, the mechanics where instead of having like the click mechanic, you actually have real time where you're slashing and moving your character, and it's based on.
Exactly.
And I guess the other thing is like you said, where you get to kind of build your own stuff, is like you are, because of the massive multiplayer, is like other people are taking on the roles of like NPCs. So like it's like you're building your own economy. Somebody can make something to sell it, or this person can do this, or do that.
Exactly.
And I think that's really cool because you're all working together to build this world that you live in. And
Yeah,
okay,
that's also the idea, and something that I think is a problem in games, or not a problem, it's a characteristic of games. Like if you look at Rust or Ark, if you play on online servers, these are pretty mistrustful. Like you often hear things like you can't trust people around here, and
oh
that's the
yeah,
basic mentality in these sandbox games. Like because there's so much opportunity to like just quickly make an explosion, open up the fortress of someone else, and just steal everything, or kill his dinosaurs from far away over the wall, things like that. These worlds build up a lot of mistrust, and a lot of, basically you feel like you're in a small group and you better stick to the people you know, and you don't open up. And I think with these offline play mechanics, really being able to put up guards who actually fight quite well. I mean, they're not as versatile as players, but you can like tune up their reaction times, that they have just perfect targeting and all that.
and I like that you
Uh,
have
so,
more than one person, like that you can control. That you can actually, like
yeah,
you said,
aside,
set up guards and
yeah,
set up someone for gardening, or someone making something. And I think that's kind of a neat aspect
yeah,
too.
yeah, exactly. A settlement with 50 people still has 50 people, even when most are offline. But you can't just go there and troll them because everybody's offline.
I was saying that's the biggest problem at those games is someone's like, "Ooh, we're gonna wait till so and so's offline," or everyone's like, "I have to build a defense, or I gotta make secret passageways, or whatever the case may be, because
yeah,
someone could show up
yeah,
when I'm offline." So it's nice to have those fail safes, in place to where
yeah.
you've got protection when you're gone,
And
which
then
will
when you have
build.
cities, sorry.
Oh, I would say that'll help build where, like you were talking about fractions before, or factions, where like people can actually, you want to team up with somebody, or you want to, help the other person because there's no need to, steal from them or take their stuff
Yeah,
because you can't really do it.
yeah, and then trying to put these things on the bigger level, like when you have larger cities fighting against each other, and you come to a thing where people have put up walls, put up magic wards, and then again you can learn from games like Eve, where you have things like reinforcement timers, like you bring down half of the energy of the shield of that city, and then it might like lock down for 24 hours, where people have time to go online and yeah, trying trying to bring large conflicts and like world changing events, or just someone messing up your house, bring it to a time scale where you have time to react and to come online
And I,
without like having to check every 3 hours if your house is there.
and I've seen that in a lot of mobile games where, yeah, there's like a cooldown timer if you get attacked, where, like you said, it gives you time to rebuild. And
Yeah,
now,
exactly.
is this PC and mobile, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. It's WebGL based, the client, so we can run it in a browser, we can run it on mobile phones and on PC. With the consoles, we're not that sure yet. And also with this offline play mode where an AI controls your character, you can also use this while you're online. So you can like just set up a travel task or things like that, and then you don't have to control the character for every single step, but you can just give larger commands and watch
And they'll just be time based,
the
basically. Like if
characters.
it's making something, you set them off to go make it or build it or guard it, and you can kind of set
Exactly.
time constructs for them. And that's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
cool. Now, it's crossplay, correct, between the mobile and PC,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
that's
It's
really cool.
crossplay. Um, the thing is, I think combat will be if you go for like advanced PvP, you will most likely play on a PC, I think. But most of the game is like exploring, fighting monsters, which are on your power level roughly, and like crafting, planning, communicating, and all these things work just as well from a mobile or tablet.
And that's really cool that you could be at your house doing whatever and have to, maybe you're just riding with someone going on a trip or something, and you're like, man, I really wish I could still work on my stuff, to be able to leave the house, hop in the car, get on your phone or your tablet, and to still do things. I think is really cool.
Yeah,
um,
we have one developer who has a small child, and in our play sessions, we had things like he had to take care of things with the child, and he's working from home. And then he could just set his character on AI mode and make him follow one of our characters. And so he went with the group, like hands-free gaming for a while.
that's pretty cool.
Um,
And is it
so
like
it,
a I guess group, so like as you're going out fighting stuff, I guess experience gain would still be, like, even though he's in AI mode, would still get experience for hanging out with you guys, going out and attacking stuff.
yeah, it's actually the progression is not so much XP based. Like combat is really more what types of items are you able to
Okay,
acquire, and how versatile are you in using them. And
so it's
then you
more for
have
crafting purpose.
exactly
Okay,
crafting has XP. Like all the crafting part is like you have this time economy, you could say. Like you have 24 hours with your character every day, and you have to see on what tasks you assign that time, and then you have a like learning by doing component. When you forge a lot of weapons, then you get better at weapon forging, and for the really good weapons, you have invested like weeks in smithing to be able to really. But it's weeks where it's just the time you're not there, so it's not really costing you anything. It's just you decide you do smithing in that time instead of carpentry or whatever.
And that's something
then
I've
there's
noticed a lot in a lot of
and
games.
then there's sorry.
I said I've noticed it a lot in games too, like AFK play, where you're getting you're accomplishing something while not being there, which is always a helpful.
Yeah, especially when you can like have decisions what to do, not just a comeback reward thing, but you have to decide what your character is doing, where you want to acquire skills, and also you have to get the resources to craft the things you want to craft. So resource acquisition still is at least partly an active play, or transporting them to your base and defending the transport. All these things. That's where active play comes in, and you can't really solve this with bots. So it's not that the game can absolutely play itself. I played some mobile 2D MMO once, some Asian thing. I forgot the name, but that actually had a complete play yourself mode where you get quests, and you had just to say, okay, do this or kill that amount of this type of monster or whatever, and then your character started doing it, and you just had to press next after each mission, basically, which was a bit too much, maybe too. You didn't have the feeling you were playing a game anymore.
Now, how many people, like not individual people like per your city, but actual humans can go in and play like in a server? Is there just a set amount that can be in there?
For now, our test server, what we could do with one machine was around 800-ish players, where it started to get to the limits of one server.
Oh, wow.
And we are currently reworking the server structure, so that's what we are doing right now, is to be able to cluster servers. So you have a hopefully seamless transition where you just can walk from one physical machine to the next physical machine.
That's pretty cool.
So that would bring us to basically infinite. If people get very, very clustered together, it gets more difficult. I mean, you have an end-to-end connection. If two people are there, two people can see each other. But if 7 people are there, like, you have 7 people who can all see 6 other people. So there's a lot more data to send around, basically, and it grows exponentially.
Now, you said that like each person can have their other people that you can control. Like, how many people can I control, within my construct, I guess, my little town or city? Or
I mean, we haven't really talked about character slots. Our testing, we went with one character per person, but I think this is easily extendable. So you like multiple, maybe up to 5 character slots, something like that.
Okie doke.
And then there's also a management layer. Like, you can do your individual task management and set up individual resting tasks, whatever, eating when you get hungry. And then you can also subscribe to your clans or your city's, let's say, task board. And there you have a clan official who can manage the remaining time of all clan members who also like accepted that they are managed by the clan.
Okay.
So that's how you can do like have a role a person who controls maybe 100, 200 player chars. like not directly, but
Well, yeah,
managing their task lists and setting their like patrol schedules and all that.
yeah, that's that's pretty neat. It's just neat to see, like I said, to see the massiveness of everything, and because you have you become AI when you're offline and can still do stuff. I think is really nice, and it's
Yeah,
gonna keep the
yeah,
world full. Yeah, that's a
yeah,
lot of
exactly.
problem is what you get in. You were talking about Rust or Arc is like you'll hop in, and depending on the time, it could just be you, and
And it's
it
very
gets
dead.
boring.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You have these big like player buildings and stuff, but no one's there at all.
Yeah, it's
And
almost like you're running around a world that used to exist, and you're just the only one left.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah, and I think also like we're still figuring out what works in terms of player to player given missions. I think the shops are kind of mission giver because you can like say like the classic fetch quests are
oh yeah,
basically a shop, you could say, because when you say I buy wolf hides, then you already can make yourself a quest. You find an NPC, a OPC, we call it, offline player character vendor, and you see he buys wolf hides or stuff, and then you go to the forest and hunt and like make little fetch quests. And then we are still thinking about like pests and monsters that are very specific and that like probably fuck around with your economy. Like you have a fire elemental that settled somewhere next to your village, so all your harvests
oh
is burning because it's getting too hot. And then you hire some people with specific anti-fire creature weapons and let them kill the elemental. But
kind of like a
that's
mercenary
that,
board or something. Be like, hey,
yeah,
you
yeah,
have
yeah,
to
yeah,
have these prerequisites to fight this
yeah,
person, or
exactly. Exactly. That's still a little bit. We have to work out how this exactly works because we're just building uh, the world and the basics and balancing the economy system and yeah, monster difficulty and yeah, it's just a lot of things in parallel to build up. Uh, and yeah, a lot of things we still have in mind and want to do or want probably to do,
okay.
depending on how fast we get on with this.
Well, I'll fire up
With
the
the,
your trailer here. We can kind of talk a little bit while it's in
yeah,
motion.
yeah.
Because I'm excited.
It's
I watched it a couple of times already,
I
and
mean, it's a year old, so the graphics are a bit outdated. We have to do some a new one, but yeah, as we said before, marketing is not our strong side, sadly.
yeah, it's I'm a huge fan of just the 8-bit feel, and I love
Mhm.
that it's got that overhead legend, like you said, the 2D Legend of Zelda feel, or you have was it like Stardew Valley? I think has kind of got
Yeah,
that overhead, and yeah, to see everybody working together, and that's why I asked earlier how many people you're gonna have with you, because like in the very beginning of the trailer, it shows like a guy with a basket, he's picking up the harvest, but then you have somebody that's tilling the dirt and another person that's planting. So I
yeah,
just didn't know
yeah,
if they
yeah.
were follow characters or actually
No,
controllable
no.
characters.
We do that in the group actually because harvesting often there's a lot of stuff ripe at the same time. So if you do it alone and then the next time someone else does it, everybody has the feeling of like I'm harvesting forever here, dudes. Like if you
Oh,
have
so that
like
was actually
for 10 people.
three IRL people working together.
Exactly, exactly.
Oh,
We
you guys
just
are doing it
go
so
there together.
perfect. It actually looked like follow characters. Yeah, it was just really crazy because like you guys were doing it in such a perfect unison order where I was like, "Oh, cool, you get people following you." But yeah, now knowing that
Yeah.
it's you and your friends, now it makes a little more sense.
We harvested a lot of fields. We are practiced in this. That's really crazy when you build a game. It's so different to playing a game because you do everything like over and over, and Yeah, it's funny. Sometimes you also lose the feeling for it a bit, and then you need other testers to come in and like try this. Tell me if I'm crazy. Does this work for you? And yeah,
Oh yeah, to see it from a different perspective or a different
yeah,
angle,
yeah,
or
yeah.
a different age group, or just just trying to feel out your audience. And
Yeah, and just get out of this. Like when you do something over and over. I had this also when I was cutting advertisement clips and putting music in them as a student job. And when when you hear it or see it again and again, you lose the feeling for the thing at some point, and then you need an external perspective again who looks at it somehow.
yeah,
You get this
different
blindness
eyes
for
instead of ears.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
you
it's
overlook like things are becoming so natural to you, or so you just subconsciously do so much things when you're used to playing the game, that when a new player comes to the game and then tries something, it's like, okay, but how do I do this? And you yourself have to think like, ah, yeah, wait, it was this button, I think. And, like
well,
put your hand on the keyboard, follow the muscle memory. Ah, yeah, it's this button. It's correct. It's Q.
and that's how it works, because like the bad guys. So if a bad guy's resistant to this, or might take more damage to this, like you already know that because you've designed it and
Yeah,
developed it. So you know what weapon to equip, or how maybe you're like, this person has to be hitting the head and not the body. And so when you do that, you're going in, like you said, all the weaknesses, everything. And but yeah, when someone that doesn't know anything comes in, you still gotta, I guess, create it, design it in a way that that new person at that given point that knows nothing, it's still easier comprehensible to them to understand it.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I
No,
could
you
definitely
need
see that.
testers, and especially in a non-linear game, sandbox game, it gets even worse because you don't have like this one thread that you have to test and retest and optimize, but you have these like millions of situations depending on play style, location, equipment, all that.
Oh yeah, because there's always going to be that one person that just wants to break everything. There's always, they're hugging walls, they're doing things like normal people wouldn't do. They just want to like find glitches. There's always those people that exploit different games. So at least when you do testing, it's nice to catch that one person, because you're like, okay, well, now that you found this thing that I didn't know, you can go in and fix it.
Yeah, and I mean, people will discover stuff. I'm not sure I know of any MMO that didn't have the one or other game breaking glitch that was then heavily abused by players at some point.
Yeah, I've done a few testing for other people, and it's almost like you feel it's a glorified thing, but it's like, yeah, I get to play a game no one else gets to play, but I'm like, all I'm doing is hugging walls and like doing weird things that normal people wouldn't think you would do. Like, yeah, you still have to play the game, but to get the boss A, you have to touch every wall. You have to wear this shoe or that hat and still touch the same wall and be like, well, maybe the hat's what breaks the game or whatever. So there's a little
Yeah,
more that
yeah.
goes into it than just playing a game. But
Try all combinations. Like put on the hat, climb on the table, and jump with your hat on the roof to
yeah,
the ceiling or whatever.
yeah, it's always something. But yeah, that's what's nice. At least when you get a bunch of testers, they can come in and essentially
Yeah,
either everything works, or they're gonna find what's gonna break it.
yeah, and that's also really nice with our. We have a loosely 100 people that we tested with, and maybe 10 to 20 which are like which really grinded the game already, and who also like already rose, like they played for several months, I think, and they grinded up to the best materials, to mithril, and started mining that even. So they really were hardcore players. But it's really nice because we have this little community that when there's another big update comes together again and like tests the new stuff, and
Now
they will
on
just hate us because their skills are gone next time we reset the server.
now is there like a sign up for that on your site, or where people can get in on that
Yeah, you
still?
can on conspiracy.de or blossomanddecay.com. You can sign up for testing.
Okay.
But as we have the server rebuilt, like server structure rebuilt right now, we closed it down because it's actually it's a bit of work to like also maintain a testing group, because you have people with questions, you have to do community management and all that.
Oh yeah.
And we decided right now it's hard for us to extract new valuable information, because if people find bugs in that implementation, it might be that this implementation that they're testing is like 2 months old, and we changed everything anyway. So
Yeah. Start
yeah,
fresh and then get the data from the fresh server.
exactly. Find the new bugs that we put in.
Now, we were chatting a little bit earlier about just the differences, between like indies you were talking about over there and like what you guys are working on over there, and how there's you got your division of gaming between the UK, JP and US. So, uh, what are some things that, I mean, obviously through Steam, like I can get this over here, but what are some things that I guess you guys have over there that's probably more just for you guys over in the UK?
Yeah, I think, I mean, you get all this, but I found intriguing that when you look at the numbers, you have this category, and that's very specific and strange about German people. You have this category of farming simulator and bus driver and train driver simulator. And these games go really well in Germany and Japan only, I think. At least that was when I looked it up. And I think there's something strange about the German gaming culture. Not strange, but it's less action oriented, and it's more like people are into these simulation games, and like the Settlers came from here, or what was the other one? Anno, the Anno series also came from Austria, but then was developed by a German company.
Yeah, I think over
And
here we're in the. I mean, like farming is kind of a thing. Like we had Farmville on Facebook, that was a huge thing, and I know some people kind of do the Stardew, but like Flight Simulator
no,
is huge.
no, but it's not Stardew Valley. It's really like farming simulator. You get a tractor, and then you drive up and down the field, and bus driving simulator. So it's really like you have a bus, a Greyhound, whatever, and you drive for 2 hours from one city to the other. And if you make a little, it's just simulating driving a real car, not like game elements
Well,
in
yeah,
there
I got
from.
a friend that does Flight, and it blows my mind because I'm like, what did you do on Saturday? And he's like, oh, I flew from Los Angeles to New York, and I was like, what'd you do? He goes, well, I just sat there and watched. I'm like, watched what? And he's like, you looked out the window for like 4 hours, and but I mean, people are into that, so I mean, but
But
it's just
I get that with flying, but with the bus driving thing, I'm not sure. Our theory was it's actually bus drivers who play these games after they come back home from work. They just enjoy like 2 nice hours of bus driving, maybe. Uh,
because then they can
that
say what they want to say when the the AI people get on the bus. They just let all their
yelling,
frustration.
yelling at the passengers, the virtual ones, and yeah, probably.
And see, it's crazy. Like you
Let's
were talking about farming with like the machines going up and down, and like a lot of farmers here now we have GPS. So like even farming here, people aren't even farming anymore. They hit a button and the machine just takes off by itself. So like,
it's
could
like
you
a
imagine?
Roomba.
Could you imagine farming simulator now? You basically are a guy. You look down at an iPad, you go start, and then the machine just takes off, and you just go back in
Yeah.
your living room and watch TV.
yeah. And then you go to your video game and
That's
field
that's when the video game
because you
starts.
have
Is when
this
you
free time.
so you're a farmer in Farming Simulator. You hit start so the GPS tractor can go off, so you can go back to your TV to play a Farming Simulator game in the
Exactly,
simulator.
exactly.
It's Matrix style.
Inception, or yeah,
Farmception.
um, Farmception.
Um,
No, but Germany, I think the gaming scene, or the game dev scene, it's a bit difficult because they had a hard time on like accepting the cultural value of games in Germany, I think, and even though we have a big like board game tradition in Germany, and there's like Ravensburger and whatever, like big board game companies are for some reason from Germany. They didn't really pick up on the video game thing. There always was this like, oh, it's killer games. It's like people go crazy when they do this, or it's just children's toys. It's like a new art form. Anytime has like troubles to be recognized as being of the same value as like movies, books, or whatever form of artistic expression.
yeah, I remember
And
it might have been Halo 3 actually had a map, and when you would go live multiplayer, I think it was Halo 3, but they would actually show you like basically light dots of like the people that were on it. It was just crazy to see, out of a whole world that, the US would be lit up, you'd have Japan and like China, and then it's hard to tell, looking at a silhouette, but like the UK-ish area there, with
yeah,
Europe and everything. And it's just nuts to see all these blank spots still where, countries or
but
cultures just haven't really adapted into the gaming market.
yeah. But I think it's like it can go pretty fast in the end. Like North Africa, from what I see, yeah, depending on how many problems they will have with all these like refugee situations, but I think they will pick up pretty fast. I'm more often in Morocco, and every time I'm there, I feel like the world there has changed again. Like the first time I was there, they still had these teleboutique things where you just have a telephone, like a shop where you can make phone calls, and then the next time they already were changed to internet cafes, and then the next time everybody was around with his smartphone. And I think,
Just taking time for
I
technology to catch up.
yeah, and I think this goes pretty quick. It's a lot faster than like they jump over certain steps then and pick up. I guess, yeah, and yeah, I think
Now, I guess as a gamer, and maybe it's something that you've played that we haven't heard of, or it could be a game that, that's just universal between all three. Uh, what's what's your favorite game, or what was your favorite system, growing up or here currently?
I mean, yeah, there's several games that like inspired me a lot. If my favorite game, I think, are the two first Fallout games. I think they were what like impressed me the most, and like showed me at that time what the potential of an open world narrative is, and of like object oriented storytelling where you don't follow a linear thing but really explore this world on your own terms,
And it
basically.
was
And
actually crazy. The last podcast we did, the two gentlemen that were on it referenced the Fallout series, particularly Fallout 1 and 2, as like
yeah,
the game that either got them into modding for Fallout in the newer side, got them into
mm-hmm.
gaming in general, but I hear that a lot where Fallout kind of seems to be for a lot of people, what got them into gaming more so than just, Mario or whatever.
Yeah. I think the writing is awesome. It's I'm not sure it um, was some guy who also was in this Baldur's Gate area in these D&D games, writing for that, and I think just the writing is really awesome in the old Fallout games and really draws you in. Even the like you have a little status monitor when you're traveling, and it gives you like when you're radiated, it tells you how whatever your eyes are bleeding and you're like only limping forward, and it's like you really get this feeling of, oh my god, I'm in a wasteland, I'm radiated, and I, I will probably die soon. Like setting up the atmosphere, and they had this awesome soundtrack, which was like a it's not really electro, or maybe some kind of electro, but made with environment sounds and wind, and like very, very atmospheric. And I think it just brought this together with this open world thing where you start the game and then you can go anywhere. Basically, you can directly walk towards the end of the game. You will most likely die, but you can go there if you want. Mm.
I've been down that road many a times where games that don't have restrictions or level cap barriers, I instinctively always go to the place I shouldn't be for like another 100 hours. So like I don't know, I just like that looks flashy or cool. Let's head that way, and then I'm usually
Then
dead.
yeah,
So
then you end up creeping around somewhere, way too hard enemy for you. And
where you spend 10 hours creeping just to get through one door, then you die, and you're like, well, I could have probably spent 10 hours and could have made it to this point, legit
leveling up.
leveling up. But
Yeah. No, but
curiosity.
I think games don't have to do this. I love also stuff like Half-Life 2, which is totally linear, but I never had the feeling in this game I want to do something different than the game offers me. And then it's also like you feel you're following your own agenda. At that time, these Fallout games were really a revolution in terms of openness.
Yeah.
And then another thing which came later, which so really loved, is DayZ, this zombie apocalypse
Now
shooter game.
that's the newest, or that just came out like a couple of months ago.
Yeah, but actually, I mean, the mod of the Arma 2 mod, like, what, 7 years old, probably. I think that's roughly when it came out, or 5 years, might be wrong. But I think in these zombie shooters, what was really nice at the beginning, the Arma 2 mod, and like, people were still figuring out what this genre is. We didn't have the like sandbox survival zombie apocalypse genre to that extent, not in the multiplayer form. And then you had like 50% role players in the game and 50% shooter players, and that made for a really, really interesting dynamic in the beginning. Like you had people who wanted to like role play their post-apocalyptic zombie thing, and then you also had these dangerous people in between who just randomly killed everybody. And the sad thing today in these games is like the role players retreated after some time. They didn't really work out because you can't do your role play when you get shot all the time and interrupted, and then you have to gather gear again. And I think the people who played these games more like a shooter game, like a loot shooter, where you have like very high death penalty because you need an hour or two to get back to the armed state you were in when you were killed. I think they took over the game, sadly. And in the beginning, this was a very different thing. Like you had whatever crazy stuff, like some guy on the server just opening up a bus route and like repairing a bus and then driving up and down the coast, posting on his website when he's where, and putting up like bus stops,
And
so
that and
people
that's
could.
that's bad when you have, it's nice when a game's designated for more so role playing than like where you said, you have two people, one that just want to play a shooter and people that are role playing, and they're just never going to mix together. Um, but then like you actually see like specific role playing servers where everybody's at harmony with everybody because you're there because you know that you're
Yeah,
going
yeah,
to
and
do.
everybody speaks in Elven tongue and yeah, whatever. It's really like that's also not working somehow. You need the mix. You need a balance between these things, I guess, because you're not like it's not improv theater that you're doing. That's not the idea in a video game. Still has to be like tied to the mechanics of a game and still use your intrinsic motivations as a game does, like use your greed, use your desire to progress, your desire to find out things and all that, your desire to dominate over a player, and make these wishes that you have connect them to a meaningful narrative in a way. That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. I see a lot of people like something that I periodically watch is like the Grand Theft Auto role playing, where you always follow
Mm-hmm.
like the cops around and like they are serious, and it's like they know the codes, they know everything, and it's like, are you just a real cop playing? Because like you do a really good job. Like I don't have like enough time to learn that to fall into a role to become a police officer, but like the people that do it, like they do it so well. You think that they do that as a profession. And
Mm-hmm.
there's actually someone on Caffeine here that is a police officer that does do that, and a couple other people that do the police officer role that aren't police officers, and it's just crazy to see you take your IRL and then you put it, you're actually role playing that into a game, and it's kind of
You're in
kind
a
of neat to
game and
see.
you have your colleagues who are not police people, and you're like, that's against protocol. You can't do that. And also, you should switch on your body cam right now, my.
um,
It's crazy, but it's similar to the bus driver thing, I guess.
yeah, I mean, people when they get into it, they get into it, but
Yeah,
yeah, I can't even imagine having like busroutes.com for so and so game or whatever and be like, hey, I just got on. Like you said, it's a popular thing over there. I just got on to drive a bus. Just want to.
yeah. No, what I loved about the bus driver thing in DayZ was that guy was really like helping people. You had to get north pretty often because you spawn in the south and north are the good loot. And then he just opened up this bus route, helped people, and of course got murdered at some point and his bus stolen. Okay, that was step one. And what I found really charming then was people who he like drove from place to place immediately started to get a new bus for the guy. That was the first thing. Like they worked together 2 hours to like build a new bus. And also other people wanted to know the names of the guys who
I
shot
was
him.
I was gonna say
And they suddenly
vast
had a
revenge.
mission. Like suddenly you had a sheriff mission basically, or a bounty hunter mission with like a revenge a revenge plot or something working against this player, and that's the first time that I experienced that like being nice or doing nice things in a game kind of a shield or kind of a protection level, not like you don't click on the protection skill, you're just a decent guy and you help people and then
Oh yeah, I
uh,
mean
uh,
it's kind of
you
like
get
real
this stuff.
world. You help people and people help you.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and that's what I mean with the intrinsic motivations. I mean, like I can write a story, a plot with a cutscene where I say this is a bad guy and you should go kill him because he's bad, or I can really have something that you worked for in game for several hours, and then there's a guy who takes that away from you, and that's a different thing. That's a really really bad guy because you understand in terms of game mechanics how this guy is bad. It's not just a cutscene that told you he's a bad guy that killed this
Yeah.
NPC. It's really like you can create real emotions basically in there with this connecting role play to game elements that really matter to the players.
Yeah,
And that's something we want to try in Blossom and Decay whenever possible. Like yeah, exactly this connecting intrinsic motivations, whatever model you use, to gameplay mechanics and to like bringing people together or bringing people up against each other by that.
and I think the factions would be a pretty huge thing for that. You know, where you can team
Mm-hmm.
up with other people, and I mean,
Yeah,
essentially, you're
yeah,
gonna create, you know, different war between other areas, or you kind of get that protection bubble, you know, by joining up with someone else.
yeah, exactly. And then you can put up like mechanics that like on a small scale bring you to group up because it's really a lot easier when you have 50 more offline player characters around you than when you're just your character alone. Mm, and then on a larger scale, you have things like shrines that gather magic energy, and they gather it out of the air. The more of these shrines you have somewhere, the less productive each shrine is getting. So when another clan also starts to harvest magic energy in your name, they will drain your magic energy basically.
Okay.
So there again, you have like mechanics then cause struggle and where you use resources and resource scarcity to again bring people against each other and to motivate for that it's not getting too peaceful.
Yeah.
But I assume people will anyway. I mean, video game players are like immortal heroes that like fighting or something like that. It's not something. It's not. They're not playing a normal person. They're like a killer guy who has no fear of dying. That's the role you're usually playing in a game. So I think like conflict will probably come up by itself anyway.
Now has the the green light from like Steam, I know like that's helped project a lot of different things for companies. Like, has that put a boost on Blossom and Decay by having that?
No, we are not greenlit actually. We are just of Steam. Thing is, they also closed it down. So
Oh,
I mean, what?
the that program, or
Sorry?
the green light program? Is it?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I mean, they changed it. You now have to pay for each game
oh,
because I think they've seen that they get too much clutter in their store. I guess that's what was the
the
line of
thing.
argumentation behind this.
And I think when I was looking over there, something about you also had like the Square Enix.
Yeah, yeah, we were in Square Enix. That was like nice and brought some attention to the project. It was just something we wanted to try. Uh, yeah, we like every half year we force ourselves to do some marketing thing basically.
Well, and I'd say that's
To,
really cool. I mean, you know, like you were on. I mean, that was a big deal back in the day, the green light for them.
yeah,
And then, like I said, even though they don't do it anymore, back then that was a pretty big deal. And then, yeah, having some kind of notice from Square Enix is pretty nice too.
mhm, mhm.
Um, I guess what is
That
that
was
like? The Square Enix Collective is just more like a showcase of upcoming games or just studios in general.
yeah. I mean, they do this voting thing, and then sometimes they also offer to be a publisher. But in our case, they didn't offer it, and I'm also not sure if we, we are not really aiming for a publisher.
Yeah.
Just let me explain shortly how our company is structured. We're 6 people, and we are designers and developers who were working in the German software and media industry in general. And what we do right now, we started on the side to work on Blossom and Decay because it was just an idea like 3.5 years ago. And then when we need money, we go to like design, software, whatever jobs. And then when we have time and when we have money, we go back to Blossom and Decay. So it's a bit slow, the process, sometimes, especially depending on how much other customers or stuff there is. But we are not bound by
yeah, and sometimes that's the nice thing too, is to not like it's nice to have the recognition, I guess, of a bigger name, but then like nobody wants to, because then there's rules and restrictions, or that's everybody, because now they have a piece of the pie or whatnot. At least it's, you can wake up every morning and go, it's ours.
Yeah,
exactly. And that's what's nice. Or it doesn't affect your artistic freedom because no one else has any part of whatever.
Yeah,
and I mean, that's how a lot of companies are. They move a little bit slower when you're doing it as a side project. I know there's a lot of people that single-handedly do a game start to finish. The coding, the artwork, and it could take them 7 years to do, but they can, one person can still knock out a polished game where you're like, holy crap, I thought a whole studio did that, and you just find out it was one person.
Yeah, just with time and and I wouldn't even say it's a side project right now. We are most of the time working more on than on other jobs. But yeah, whenever something comes up or the coffers are empty, we have to go back to.
Well, it's definitely a beautiful game, and then like I said, I love the mechanics. I love the idea behind it. You're taking something that's kind of popular now, and you're twisting it in a way that works even better. You're taking it, like you said, with Rust and Arc, and just the whole mechanic of nobody there as soon as you log off is awesome, because you're gonna have a populated world at all times, and it's nice to be able to see that and feel that. And I mean, that's what we want in an MM. We want to feel like it's a huge world with people, and that's what those other games are missing. And having the AFK mechanic is nice because you still want to feel rewarded for your time, even if you're not there.
Yeah, exactly.
And like I said, I love the graphical style too.
I think it also comes in our case a bit from like we're getting to that age, a bit about 30. Some people have children and all that, and like it's you can't like spend every day 8 hours grinding some game, and that's also when you start, like in many other traditional MMOs, you start losing touch with your group. Like they level away and you can't play with them anymore, and they're like sitting there alone. And that is also, I think, one of the ideas that we have in the background, like an MMO for people with a normal schedule or with a normal game life balance or whatever you want to call it.
Now, is there any kind of vague ETA, or just still kind of going at your own pace? And
yeah, I mean there is. It's not too clear how long this rebuild take, because we just we dismantled everything, put the single parts on a shelf, and now we're like reassembling it and hoping we don't have any parts left
when it goes back together
afterwards. So it's a bit hard to estimate. I guess this part will take like 3 months, and then we'll start another phase. We had like two 1-year testing phases now. The first was just combat system, walking around, hitting things, trying out different gear. The second phase was like economy testing, where we had like people building up little villages and seeing like how many fields do you need per player, how annoying is it to harvest, like getting all this in a balance. And then yet the next phase will be uh, PvP conflict testing. So probably like setting up different settlements and then putting them against each other, having to like destroy the other. Basically, like a little realm versus realm or faction versus faction thing where you join either one or the other, can test all these like siege mechanics and infiltration and whatnot.
Okay. So like if we want to get our fix, we just need to sign up.
Exactly. And then yeah, I mean we fill the game further and further. We react a lot to what the tests bring up. Yeah, in the end, you have to try it with such a game. You have to like just put it there, play it, and then you understand a lot more of what works and what doesn't, and what was like looked like a nice idea on paper.
And that
Basically.
was it blossomanddecay.com, and then was it for the sign up?
And yeah, blossomanddecay.com.
Okay. And then you also had a sign up, I guess, on your actual site, which
On conspiracy with a K .de.
Okay. And I'll make sure they have all that in the description too, for
Yeah.
easier access. But yeah, well, I'm gonna switch over.
Yeah.
We're gonna do a little trivia, and then we'll wrap some things up here. So for this week's trivia, we have not trivia, fun facts. Nolan Bushnell was the founder of Atari, but was also the founder of Chuck E. Cheese, that's just crazy to know. Video games to a kid's pizzeria.
It's a full concept thing. I think like
yeah, it just never would have. I don't know. Finding that out my mind was blown. So I was like, that has to go in. Jen Taylor, who voiced Princess Peach and Toad in several of the Mario games, is also the voice for the female lead Cortana in Halo. So Princess Peach and Toad are Cortana. So just think of Princess Peach every time you're playing Halo. Another Mario thing is, as designers of video games, you back in the day, a lot of rehashed stuff, and the actual bushes and clouds in Super Mario Brothers are the same. They're just different colors. So they just moved them down onto the brick, changed the color. And this one I thought was actually kind of cool. I always wanted one as a kid because they were just amazing. But the Texas Instrument TI-83 calculator had more processing power than the Commodore 64. Something that played video games and did all this crazy stuff was basically a computer that little calculator. Well, I guess it wasn't little in the grand scheme of things. I mean, it was bigger than an iPhone. I mean, it's pretty hefty. But that thing had more processing power than the Commodore 64. And I think people have actually hacked it or broke it in a way where you could play like those games onto the calculator. So there was a couple of facts there where, like, I think I knew about the bushes and stuff like that, but the calculator thing kind of blew my mind, and the Chuck E. Cheese, I don't know, that was just
the Chuck E. Cheese thing is crazy because it just fits. It's like play then eat. It's just all the same theme. Somehow it feels like it fits together. I can't really say why.
Yeah, I mean, there's video games in there, so I guess he must have been playing video games one day, eating pizza, and was like, "Oh, this could be entertaining. We just need a mouse and a costume running around scaring the kids, and we got a thing." But well, I definitely appreciate you coming onto the show and talking about Blossom Decay. I definitely, like I said, we have to go check it out and get it on the next one once you get all the server up and running. But until next time, you guys have an awesome day, great weekend, and we'll chat at you later.